Alright, welcome back guys. In this video I'm going to be testing the Chemical Guys Clean Slate Surface Cleanser Wash Soap. And we're just going to be seeing how M21 from Meguiar's and Ultimate Liquid Wax holds up after applying this to the paint. And this is designed as a paint prep product to try and remove the old waxes and sealants from the paint, just in case you're wanting to apply something different on top of the paint. And the target market is all those guys out there who are using something like Dawn dishwashing soap to try and give them that fresh surface. But one of the main criticisms of using something like dishwashing soap is the ability for it to possibly dry out the plastics and rubber on your car. So that's where Clean Slate comes into play here, is something that's going to be safe to use on plastics and on rubber, while at the same time giving you a powerful cleaning ability to try and remove those old waxes and sealants. And it's also pretty concentrated as well. They recommend a 1 ounce to 5 gallon dilution ratio. And on the paint I have Meguiar's Ultimate Liquid Wax on the right side hood and fender. And I've got the M21 on the left side hood and fender facing the car here. And this rinse is going to be the baseline water result, so this is prior to applying Clean Slate Dawn on top of them. And these are very fresh on the paint. This is 24 hours after applying them. And I also did the Meguiar's Hyperwash soap test. And in that test we noticed that Meguiar's M21 was sheeting a bit slower than it was at the beginning. And Ultimate Liquid Wax was holding up pretty well after that test. So the two different water behaviors is going to give me some more insight as to what's actually going on when I throw a Clean Slate on top of each product. Alright, so 1 ounce to 5 gallons is the recommended dilution ratio, but what I'm going to do for this test is throw it down onto the paint undiluted, neat right out of the bottle. And you can see it has a very water-like viscosity to it. But the big reason why I wanted to put these Meguiar sealants up against this test is with just water, I can rinse the paint for an extended period of time and alter that surface tension. So it'll sheet slower the longer that I sit there and flood the paint with water. And so what the products do is they start out aggressive and then they level out into giving you that water behavior that you should be expected to see over the weeks and months if you don't top them off with anything. And so if Clean Slate was really stripping it off the paint, I'm really expecting that very slow water sheeting behavior. And it should be much slower than the leveling out period after I do that first extended rinse or the first soap test. And many products compared to each other in the short term are very different. Like you've got the Meguiar's M21 that's going to be much more impacted after that first soap test or an extended rinse compared to Ultimate Liquid Wax. But then you've also got a lot of products that are much better than Ultimate Liquid Wax and are virtually unaffected in the short term by the soap test or using an extended water rinse. There's Finish Care High Temp Paste Wax, you've got Sonax Polymer Net Shield and Brilliant Shine Detailer, the Colonite Waxes, Turtle Wax Ice Paste Wax. And in spite of all of that, you can see how well the Ultimate Liquid Wax has held up even after using Clean Slate undiluted onto the paint. Now, to be fair to Chemical Guys here, even with the Dawn dishwashing soap test using the Dawn Ultra formula, we noticed a minimal impact on the paint with the two sealants that we had, which was the Rejects Paint Sealant and the Finish Care High Temp Paste Wax. And another thing that Chemical Guys mentions on the front of the bottle is the removal of old waxes and sealants. And so I want to remind you again that these products are very fresh on the paint. Now with the M21 side, you can see how it is a much slower sheet compared to the beginning of the test. However, even after using Clean Slate undiluted onto the paint, you can see that the water behavior is still not slower or as slow as the water behaves after I fully strip the paint using an abrasive polish, followed up with an isopropyl alcohol wipe down and a regular wash. And if I decided to go back over the paint with the undiluted Clean Slate and the sponge again, I'm not going to get much more slower water behavior compared to what we're seeing right here. So this is when it's really leveled itself out nicely, and that's the same with the Ultimate Liquid Wax side as well. So now what I'll do is go ahead and remind you guys from the Dawn dishwashing soap video what it looks like after I've polished the paint using an abrasive. Okay, so this water behavior here is a result of me polishing the paint using Meguiar's M205 finishing polish. And to remove the polishing oils left behind by that process, I used a 15% dilution of isopropyl alcohol mixed in with distilled water. And to accelerate the leveling out period, I just did a quick wash and rinse using Meguiar's Hyperwash. And so you can really see how slowly that water sheets off the paint after we've gone ahead and used a physical method of removal using an abrasive polish. And I'll hear a lot of guys say that even unprotected paint is going to bead water pretty well and it'll sheet off at a decent rate. But the difference in my testing that I'm noticing is it levels out into a very slow sheet very quickly. So the surface tension in the short term is not durable at all. Alright, so hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. For me, what I'm going to continue to do is use a physical abrasive method to remove the previous products before I test new waxes and sealants out. And I would say that even at full strength, neither Dawn Ultra or Clean Slate fully removed each sealant from the paint. It certainly had more of an impact on the M21, which doesn't have a durable surface tension. But we're certainly not done testing out Clean Slate. I've got a whole bunch of other products that I want to try out and get on video. So stay tuned for a lot more testing in the future.